This manhwa just switched genres in the span of 2 chapters. This plot point was such a cop-out, creating some life-threatening event to turn Keith into a hero for saving Yeon Woo is a really lazy way to make Keith seem like a good guy. I get that suddenly he seems to love and care for Yeon Woo, but until I see and hear a heartfelt apology and a change in character, I'm not really that invested. Keith has effed up Yeon Woo to the point that Yeon Woo is even freaking apologizing to Keith and saying it's not Keith's fault. I really don't like seeing that in this manhwa. But before we get started, I just want to remind our viewers that if you like seeing more yaoi content and would like to support this channel, please don't forget to smash that like button. Also, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Feel free to message me in my social media at ZEALED FUJOSHI, which I'll be using to interact with viewers about more yaoi content. If that's something that interests you, feel free to follow me at ZEALED FUJOSHI. Finally, this episode will contain explicit content and a lot of manhwa spoilers. With that in mind, please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Now, without further ado, let's jump into chapter 43 of Kiss Me Liar. It's pretty much proven that Keith really has genuine feelings for Yeon Woo, and not only for the baby he is carrying. No one would cry that dramatically if it wasn't hurting them sincerely. Seeing the one he loves in pain and thinking that Yeon Woo is in the brink of death, the thought, it's kinda also like sort of really Keith's character development drastically improving from how he was a couple of chapters ago. I kinda wanna say that Keith should go get the love that he deserves with Yeon Woo, and I kind of hope that Yeon Woo overcomes a toxic relationship, because we all know how difficult it is. But when you do overcome it, it's one of the most rewarding things in life. And I kind of feel that maybe still hoping that Keith will apologize deeply for the mistakes he did and hopefully start rebuilding the relationship to become a more healthy relationship. A part of me wants to keep saying that I hope that Keith stays strong and hold on tight and keep on trying to be a better person, because it's a sight to behold. I did enjoy Keith's soul being tortured with agony and guilt for everything that he put Yeon Woo through. All of these 40 chapters that has passed, and I feel like Yeon Woo is doing a great job kind of teaching Keith a lesson. But then again, a part of me also likes to think that love is blind, and in the end of the day, Yeon Woo is deadly in love with Keith. So he is blind with love. But a part of me also is very satisfied with the fact of seeing Keith miserable. And I kind of want to see him suffer more for everything that he did with Yeon Woo in the past. But, you know, I have to remember that in this chapter, he almost lost the one he loved and his child. So I understand why Keith is crying, because sometimes in life we only realize how important something is to us when we lost it. And I feel like that is what's happening to Keith in this past couple of chapters. And of course, we all know how Yeon Woo feels about Keith. Like, regardless whether how much Yeon Woo likes to say that he doesn't love Keith anymore, and he's trying his best to make sure that he closes his heart on Keith through and through. He still loves Keith no matter what he does. So, this development in the relationship isn't really that sudden. I think we all know deep inside that this was a possibility for this couple, especially since both of their behavior was, not really all right. But now that the smoke is slowly clearing up, we get to see how much Keith cares about Yeon Woo, and we can all see that Yeon Woo loves everything that Keith has been doing in the past couple of chapters. He knows some of them is not right, but he also gives him credits for the good actions, right? But man, this chapter 43 made my eyes really teary. I don't know, and I think part of me knows that it's seeing Keith go through all this trauma when this trauma is really, really big for anyone. Like, if I try to put myself in his shoes, this kind of trauma will definitely change me overnight. So it doesn't change the fact that I forgive Keith for his actions before. Keith is not the nicest person and clearly has a lot of problems. Not boyfriend or people material, to be honest. So I really do hope that Yeon Woo needs to be very careful on how he's gonna move on forward. But then again, speaking of Yeon Woo, can we just back up and also reevaluate some of Yeon Woo's behavior? There is also a lot of things that's not right with Yeon Woo. But I'm not saying that what Keith did is right either or wrong. I mean, it's not right, it's absolutely wrong. So we just have to see it in both sides, that both of them has good and both of them did something wrong. Though I absolutely believe that what Keith did is absolutely worse than what Yeon Woo did. What else? I don't know, like I personally don't know how to feel. Like, I'm really happy with what happened in this chapter, that they are talking again, but I need to keep reminding myself that Keith still has a long way to go, because even in the end of this chapter, he really doesn't know how to express himself, because he gets mad and then sad and then mad and then sad again. And this is really tearing him apart because he doesn't even know that he cares about Yeon Woo this much. Like, it seems like us reader can see that he cares, but Keith himself doesn't understand how much he cares for Yeon Woo. And I feel like seeing Yeon Woo put his life in danger for Keith got him so confused that he can't even tell that he just did the same thing when Keith protected Yeon Woo when they jumped out of the car. It was smart enough. He could have known what Yeon Woo meant when, he said he'll do it again unconsciously. But I think, understanding the meaning of why they're going through this phase, there isn't, I think that we're hoping that there's a character development for Keith, but I really don't think that there is one yet. Just because he's worried about Yeon Woo and the baby does not mean he's had a character development. None of this recent actions erases what he has done. In my opinion, he will have a character development when he realizes that what he did to Yeon Woo was wrong, and he acknowledges that he kind of fricked him up. He needs some sort of professional help, and in my opinion, he should apologize to Yeon Woo for the rest of his freaking life. To add to that, we've mainly seen the story from Yeon Woo's perspective. I'm sorry. We didn't see Keith's perspective of, everything that he went through. So it's kind of hard for us to see what's the basis of his character development also. It's just out of nowhere seeing him being kind to Yeon Woo. It's not a character development. I'm sorry. It's just, I just feel like this is making us forget of what he did wrong in the previous chapters. Anyway, now that I've established how shitty of a personality Keith has from the start, bossing everyone around here and there, Yeon Woo leaving the position as a secretary, but Keith still wanted him because he's a good employee, even use his shitty pheromones on him. Keith has helped Yeon Woo with his pheromones, knowing it's also kind of Keith's fault why Yeon Woo got sick in the first place. But, it is also kind of Yeon Woo's fault that he was under the impression that they were in some sort of relationship just because Keith is taking care of him. Yeon Woo already knows that Keith is a playboy. And when the S started between them, Keith being so used to F-boy relationship is so dense that he thought that, Yeon Woo just only wanted S, since they didn't clarify anything. And then, Yeon Woo expected too much from Keith. So Yeon Woo was heartbroken, and I kind of also don't feel comfortable that he marked Keith and then just, made him confused like he did. So that's one of the things that I really don't like about what Yeon Woo did in this series. That's why I also kind of don't feel comfortable with, Yeon Woo's actions, right? But then again, arriving to this chapter, seeing how Keith is caring for Yeon Woo and vice versa, it's becoming such a blurry line right now. But anyway, I just wanted to say that they both have their faults, and I think that both of them needs to sit down and clarify things and whatnot. Both characters has a lot to talk about. Yeon Woo finally stood up for himself, being more expressive, and Keith is started to be more careful with his employees, a little bit of less attitude, but there's still a lot of room to grow. Also, let's not forget that this is an Omegaverse story. So I'm really glad that the baby is all right after all of that trauma. I kind of feared for what's gonna happen to this baby. I know that Keith is not thrilled with the way Yeon Woo tried to save Keith, but can't really blame Yeon Woo. It's more like if you really love someone, your body just reacts to it. But then again, Yeon Woo is pregnant, so I wish he was a little bit careful with the baby, because it's really risky for him and the baby. But I'm really glad that this chapter clarified that the baby is safe. Now, let's jump into chapter 44. There's really not much going on in this chapter, but there is a little bit of an information that took me a little bit of a time to understand this panel, which is, I was just thinking, like, what the hell happened in the very last part of this chapter? Because if it kind of sounds like Keith went to a remote island because he's in the rut again. So it sounds like Keith wants to deal with his rut on his own, and he got busted because Charles said a different story from what Emma said in this chapter. Charles was saying that Keith has a business trip, while Emma said to Yeon Woo that Keith is not on any business trip. He went on a vacation. And so, I suddenly remembered a couple of chapters ago when Keith and Yeon Woo was having a discussion about how Keith's ruts are different ever since he got marked. That ever since Yeon Woo left, that he was on his previous rut rather than just freaking someone, because he can't get it up unless it's Yeon Woo. So he had to go to an island far away from anyone and just chilled in an island. Like, seriously, he bought a new island just for his ruts. And then I remembered that, because an alpha dealing with a rut without an omega, and the omega who marked him is nowhere to be found, I'm guessing Keith was suffering so much that the pain is unbearable, that he has to buy a new island far away from anyone. And a part of me is happy, because that thought that Keith is suffering somewhere all alone is kind of like a redemption for all of the shitty things that he has done before. But then again, you'll see that Yeon Woo doesn't want Keith to do any of that, especially since he doesn't want Keith to lie about going on a business trip. But then again, maybe Keith lied to Yeon Woo because he knows that Yeon Woo is ill and he's pregnant. So he doesn't want anything bad to happen to Yeon Woo and the baby, which is a nice gesture, but you know, I'm still happy about the thought that he's a lonely boy in a faraway island. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please don't forget to follow my social media to be teased about some of the boys' love that I'm interested in. And please feel free to leave me a message and converse with me in my new Discord channel. Please, I'd love to hear back from you. And if you don't mind, please consider supporting the show by donating as little as 99 cents through www.sealedfujoshi.xyz. Also, don't forget to support the author. All the manhwa details can be found in the description below. Again, thank you so much and hope to see you next time.